I'm probably a little bit too old to be weighing in on this stuff, but the first life lesson is kind of a whopper, if I have to admit it. And so after this life lesson, you could totally skip the rest of the video. Just be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because your girl would really appreciate that. But the first life lesson is to not hold yourself accountable to something that you wanted to do maybe years ago, unless of course it absolutely rings true and resonates with the kind of person that you are today. What do I mean by this? When I was about 5 years old, I promised myself that I would become the world's greatest ballerina. I don't know why I believed that I would become the greatest ballerina. I had never ever taken a ballet class in my life. It was just something that I grew up wanting to do. Of course, later down the line, I realized that ballet wasn't for me, not just because I never took a class in it, but also because it just wasn't who I am. And so don't hold yourself accountable to some of those dreams and goals that you had when you were younger, unless of course they do resonate with the person that you are today. Life lesson number 2 is to build good habits and to stick through with them throughout the rest of your adulthood. This one is so important. I cannot stress this enough. When you're young, you think that your metabolism is super great, so you can eat a bunch of junk food without any regrets. When you're young, you think you could drink a lot of adult beverages without the repercussions of a hangover the next day. But trust me, if you could instill within yourself a little bit of discipline, just a little bit every single day, and have it compound over the years, then the results are really remarkable. Throughout most of my youth, I was always involved in sports or athletic activities, and that really helped me out throughout my adulthood because that instilled within me the need to exercise every single day. And I always feel really good after I exercise. It's just really good to sweat all of the anger out. Makes me feel happy. I'm a happy person after I exercise, and it's just a really good habit to form in your youth just because you're more likely to stick to it in your adulthood when you form it earlier on. Life lesson number 3 is to put yourself out there. Now, I hate the word networking, but I do enjoy the word socializing. The ability to be social, it's one of those skills that you don't think you'll ever need, but it's a really important skill to have. Now, I struggled a lot with being social, especially in the earlier years in college, and that's just because I was very, very shy. College and university is a very different kind of environment than, say, high school, because in high school, when you have a set schedule, you'll probably see a couple of people multiple times throughout the day, and so you have many instances to form a bond or a relationship or a friendship over a series of classes, whereas in college, it's very unlikely that you're going to see the same person in a multitude of classes unless you guys are, of course, majoring in the same major. The goal is just to be social, and you might be nervous, you might be shy, you might be scared to approach another individual and say hi and introduce yourself and start talking to them about your passions or whatever, but they are probably equally as shy as you are. Everyone suffers from the same anxieties of introducing themselves. I've always had a positive experience coming up to a person and introducing myself. Most of them ended up becoming one of my friends. It's just a good way to practice introducing yourself. Not only does this prepare you for like job interviews, but it also gets you good at conversation. So alright, life lesson number 4 is to be nice to people. I have never regretted being nice to a person before, but I have regretted being short with a person or just being unpleasant with someone just because I'm having a bad day. It's unfair to people when you take out your experiences or your angers or whatever it is that you're going through. It's unfair for you to take it out on another individual, and so be nice to people. It doesn't take too much effort. Life lesson number 5 is that you're not as important to everyone else as you think you are. And I don't mean that in a rude sense or a mean sense, but I mean that in sort of a freeing kind of a sense, in that when you understand that you are this tiny, tiny, tiny little morsel of someone else's day, then it allows you to do so many things. It's very freeing in that you can just be yourself and not have to worry about what others are thinking of. They're not really there to judge you. Even if people are looking at you, it's most likely they're not looking at you, or they're more likely looking at the thing behind you or right beside you, or they're just dazing off. No one's really thinking about you. You do you, boo. And yeah, no one really has the time to worry about what you are doing because they're all worried about how they're appearing. It's really freeing once you understand that no one's really paying attention to you and you can kind of just go on with your day without having to worry about judgment. Life lesson number 6 is to learn math. And I know it's kind of biased for me to say that because I majored in mathematics. I love mathematics and I literally make a living off of teaching mathematics and mathematics. But having mathematics at the center of my education has taught me so much about learning hard things. And in today's day and age, and I'm sure even more so in the future, it is very important that you kind of train yourself to like learning hard things. I used to have a lot of anxiety in my earlier years in college because every semester I had to pick out a new set of classes. And if I knew I was going to have maybe 2 or 3 or more difficult classes, I would get major panic attacks and like have just a lot of anxiety right before the first day of school. And that's just because my brain wasn't necessarily wired, or it was fearful of doing hard things because I was scared to fail. And so therefore, majoring in mathematics, I failed a lot, and I learned how to overcome these challenges and how to figure out problems and how to learn hard things alongside learning mathematics. You can take your pick of a difficult subject. It doesn't have to be mathematics, although math is the cooler one. It's just a really good skill to have. Life lesson number 7 is that everything is figure-outable. Now, I got that phrase from another podcast or YouTube channel that I was watching maybe about 6 months ago, and it's not really coming to my mind right now, but whenever it does, I'll link it down in the description below so you guys can check it out. Now, I learned this the hard way, and this is probably why this lesson has stuck with me ever since I learned it. I used to have really bad anxiety about just everything that went wrong in my life, and so anytime that I had to find a solution to a problem, even if it was like a solution to a homework problem, I would just freak out. It got really bad at one point until I started majoring in mathematics, and I realized that every single homework assignment that I ever do from now on is going to be a challenge. And so if there's a problem in the world, or if there's a problem in your life that you are currently facing, there's always a solution to it. Everything is figure-outable as long as you put in the time and find the right resources, or take the time to kind of think about a clever new insight that will help you reach the light at the end of the tunnel. Life lesson number 8 is to record more of your life. Take pictures, write notes, journal, anything that will help memorization become an easier task. I think a lot of the times we give our brains huge credit for its memorization when in actuality it doesn't remember a lot of things. Most of the time it's just much better to write more than you think you actually need to recall a memory. And I hate to admit it, but we give our brains way too much credit for what it can remember. It's not as intuitive and clever as you think it is. It needs a lot more help and assistance in remembering things, especially when you just learned it. And this also applies to most of our lives as well. I realized the importance of taking pictures, especially when I'm hanging out with my friends and family, because a lot of those memories kind of go forgotten when I don't have a picture. And it sort of seems inconvenient at the time. It's kind of annoying to have everyone, smile at the same time, but everyone's always happy that they ended up with a picture. Life lesson number 9. You are not behind. You're on your own journey, and so focus on the journey rather than the destination. I read a book recently that summarized this concept really well, and in this book, the author explains that people interpret and understand events much better than they can understand processes. When you kind of understand that everything has a process behind it, you become less focused on the destination and more focused on the journey. And I know this is kind of cliche because everyone says focus on the journey rather than the destination, but it really is true. Whenever you stop focusing on the destination and use it rather as sort of a guideline for where you should place your journey and how you should shape your journey, then things become a lot clearer. When you focus on the journey, you get so much more done, and you also have a lot more fun with, whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And finally, life lesson number 10 is to focus on what you can control and not what you cannot control. That was a lot more complicated than it was supposed to be. Just focus on what you can control and forget about everything else. Every single day, we have a finite amount of energy that we can choose to parcel out. And so if we only have a finite amount of energy, why waste that energy on something that we can't control anyway? A lot of the times it seems very natural to get upset or frustrated over something that seems out of our control, but really at that point, does it even really matter? When you start to reframe your mindset and understand things in terms of what you can control and what you can't control, it becomes very freeing because you get to then focus all of your energy on things that you can control. You focus on the things that you can control, focus on being a better person every single day. Just do good things, everyone. Just do good things, and good things will come to you. And that about does it, everyone. Here are some lessons that I learned, and I just hope someone finds it useful and valuable and can apply it to their lives in some sort of a way that, makes it much more positive. Yeah, if you like this video, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Go ahead and turn on that notification bell if you haven't already, just so that you know every time I post a video. I will see you in the next one.